Hello guys, welcome to another video in the Team NetShot channel, and in today's video we'll take a look at the repeater and the intruder tabs in the Burp Suite. In the Burp Suite Community Edition. As in the last video we went through the installation of Burp Suite, and also we configured Firefox to use Burp Suite as a proxy server. So if you don't know how to install Burp Suite or how to configure Firefox to use Burp Suite as a proxy, then make sure to check out my video. The link will be in the description section below. Okay, so as I said, now in this video we'll take a look at the repeater and the intruder tabs in Burp Suite Community Edition. It's exactly the same thing if you are using Burp Suite Professional Edition. Okay, so what I did in this video, I'm not going to be using Firefox. I'll be using actually the embedded browser into a Burp Suite. So if you go to the proxy and intercept and then open browser, it will give you an instance of your, I believe, yeah, it will give you an instance of this browser right here, which is already configured for you, so you don't need to do any configuration or change any settings. It's automatically set to intercept the responses and the requests by Burp Suite. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing that is because when you are testing an application that's running on your local server, it's not really, when you are using a browser like Firefox or Google Chrome, the requests are not being intercepted by Burp Suite, even if you set the intercept. If you for example configure Firefox to use Burp Suite as a proxy, it's not being intercepted properly when you are testing an application that's running on your local host. So using the embedded browser into Burp Suite is more convenient in those cases. Okay, so now what I'm having here is I'm just having a simple website that's run on my local host on port 5000, and it's just simply you have a login page where you can log in. Alright, so let's test it. Let's actually log in with hello, yeah, username and password not valid. Alright, so first let me just, yeah, I didn't have intercept on, so make sure that you have the intercept on, and also if you go to the options in the proxy tab, you just need to make sure this option is on, intercept responses based on the following rules. So make sure this intercept is on, and what this option does is because Burp Suite in the default it doesn't intercept the responses that are coming back from this server. It only intercepts the requests that are going from our side to the server. So when you make sure to turn this option on, so you intercept the responses as well and not only the requests. Alright, so let's do the same thing and let's see how Burp Suite will intercept our requests. So just type hello in the username and hello in the password and hit log and press login. And now if you can see, we have actually intercepted the request. Let me forward the request, and as you can see we have intercepted the response as well. Alright, and we have an error message that says username and password are not valid. Alright, so let's see how would you use the repeater in those cases. For example, you can do, let me do the exact same thing, and hello, and now you have intercepted the request. So this is essentially what you will be doing. You will be intercepting the data that interests you, and then you just right click in the intercept section right here, and then you can send it to any other tab in the Burp Suite. You can send to intruder, repeater, sequencer, comparer, or decoder. In our case, we're gonna send it to the repeater. You can either use a right click and then send to repeater, or you can use the shortcut which is Control R on Windows. Alright, so that's exactly what I did. I sent it to repeater. As you can see, we have it right here. Now let me just forward this request and turn the intercept off. And what the repeater is, let me just, if I just maximize this, and now the repeater, you can instead of having to do the exact same thing every time, intercept the request with different values, you can just send the request here to the repeater, and then you can change the values and send the request, and you get the response in the right side right here where it says the response. So if we send the exact same response, as you can see, we have the request, and you can actually also render the response if you just type in render, so you can see the HTML being rendered right here as you would see it in the if you are using a browser. Okay, so it takes a little bit of time to render the HTML. I don't know why, but yeah, as you can see, we have rendered the HTML, but you can interact with it. It just rendering the HTML right here. Alright, so I just want to let you know that the option is there if you want to render the HTML that's been returned by the server. I'm just gonna go with the default where I see the row response. So as you can see, this is the HTML page that's been returned by the server, as well as these are the headers that we have returned. We have the HTTP version 1.1, 200 status code of 200. Okay, alright, and we can actually change those values and send the request again. So let me just change the password to say password, and let me send the request. As you can see, we get the exact same thing. Alright, now what I want to say is, now this is essentially how you would use the repeater. This is the only reason why you would use it. If you want to test the same request but with different values. Alright, now let's take a look at the intruder, which is more interesting than the repeater. Alright, so let me close those tabs that I have opened right here, and let me just have a fresh clean one. Alright, so now you can send from the repeater, right click and then send it to the intruder tab, or you can use the shortcut which is Control I. So now that I have sent it to the intruder, you can just click on the positions, and as you can see, those two positions are marked. Now what the intruder is, the intruder actually is a brute force tool which makes you send a lot of requests instead of having to it's actually doing the exact same thing as the repeater tab, unless you just give it the values that you want to test, and it will do the work for you. So for example, I want to keep let me just hit clear, so you clear those positions, and now I want to keep the password. I want to test multiple values for the username, and you just need to click on add, and now this position you're gonna set the payload for this position that it will test in here. So the way you do that is just you go to the payloads, and now as you can see, we only have one payload, and then in the drop down here, payload set, we have only one payload, and you can test the values that you want to enter for the position in this box right here. So for example, you want to type David and admin, for example John, actually it's John, so remove, and then John, for example administrator. Okay, alright, so those only those ones. Alright, and now if you want to hit the start the attack, it's telling you that the it's gonna be slower because it's the community edition, and if you want the attack to be faster, it advising you to get the professional edition, but that's good for us. We only have 4 values, so it should be fairly quick. Alright, as you can see now, and it's telling you the payload that's using for the specified position, and you can look at the response at the request in each step. As you can see in the first one, what's the word for it? It substituted the David value in this in the username position. As you can see in the list right here, we have the David as the first value, and then for the password, it's the password, since we haven't marked this field to be substituted. Alright, and you can look at the response as well, and if we look at the response, you can also render the response as you would do in the repeater tab. Okay, so interesting, we have a different error message right here. If we look at the admin and the render, alright, so you start getting the idea that the error message changed. When we use administrator, it says the username and password is not valid, but when we use the admin username, we get a different error message, which is saying, alright, it's taking time, but yeah, right here we have the password not valid. Now, one thing that I don't like to do is go in there manually in each payload and see what the error message is actually, what the error message is. And for that, there is actually a nice feature in Burp Suite. It's this feature right here. Where is it? Yeah, in the options, there is this one right here called grab and extract. Well, it's going to extract part of the response and display to to you in a separate column. So you just need to press on add. So you want to add the right one here, and yeah, it gives you the response, and you want to look for the error message right here. You want to mark the error message, okay, and now it's gonna extract this part from each response. All right, let me just hit okay, and now this box will be checked automatically for you. If it didn't, then you just need to turn on this option, so it will actually extract them. If you don't mark it, it's just gonna be there, but it's not gonna be intercepted anymore. Right, so let's actually run the exact same attack, and let's see the results now. As you can see, we get another column right here. So now the error messages are error messages are being rendered here, instead of you having to go manually in there and then look at the error message and the response. As you can see, in the David, we get password not valid, so we know for sure that there is a David user in this application as well as in the admin. But for John and administrator, we get username and password not valid, which means the administrator and John are not users on this website. But for admin and John, we know for sure now that there is actually a username with admin and password. And when you are doing actually that, you'll be examining how the application is working, and then you will perform a more specific attack, or if you are penetration testing tester and you are testing the application, then this is exactly what you would be doing. And while you're doing that, you might be want to be taking notes, so you know how the application is actually working. Okay, that's one thing. I also want to show you another thing. For example, if we provide, you also want to see the changes in the status code, which is actually important. So if we go to the repeater again, and I know that there is this is I'm gonna provide the valid credentials for a user, which is David, and the password is test1234. If we send the request, as you can see, we get a 302. So when the credentials are correct and the user is a valid user, we get a 302 found status code. But when we provide a non-existent users, wrong credentials, then the application is simply returning a 200, okay, rendering the login page with a message, either the user and password not valid or the password is not valid, which could be handy to determine which users are exists and which are not. Okay, so let's actually use this tab, since I know there is this David user right here, and I'm gonna use the intruder to examine how this works. So I'm gonna mark the hello position right here, and I'm gonna mark now that I know that David is in there, so I'm just gonna say David, and for the password I'm gonna mark it like this, and to the payloads I'm gonna delete this. I'm just gonna press clear, and now I'm gonna choose the values that I want to try for the password. So first one is password. I'm just gonna demonstrate to you how it works, since we already know that the password for the user David is test123, but this is for illustration purposes, so you know how to get the best out of Burp Suite. Okay, so now let me choose admin. I don't know what's wrong with my typing. Alright, so password admin, and let's try here test1234, and now test1234 and hello. Alright, now let's send the attack and let's see what happens. Okay, as usual, it's extracting the error message, and as you can see here, we got a 302, which means these are valid credentials for the user. If we look at the response render, it's not going to be rendering anything. Alright, so because it's actually a redirect to the to the home page. Okay, So that's how you would use it. But until now we only been using one position, only one position right here. But what if we want to use, we have a set of usernames and a set of passwords, and we want to test those passwords and those usernames. So you can add also this, and if you, we have this attack type right here. We have the sniper, which is the default one. We have these two are more interesting, the pitchfork and the cluster bomb. And I'm gonna be explaining those, just gonna be hidden to my PowerPoint presentation so you can see how those two attacks are actually working. So if we go here, yeah, so this is the pitchfork type, attack type. Just get my pen, red pen, yeah. So as we can see, we have intercepted the request, the exact same request, and we have the username and password. So the first position will be corresponding to the first payload that we choose, and the second position will be corresponding to the second payload. Alright, so these values that we specify in the first payload will be substituted in the in this username position, and the values that we specify in the second payload will be substituted in the password position. Alright, I don't know why I can't pronounce that word. Okay, so in the pitchfork type of attack, it's just gonna pick the first value in the first payload with the first value in the second payload, and it would do the exact same thing. So it's just doing this. First with first, second with second, third with third, and fourth with fourth. So that could be, if you wanna, there's cases when you can use this attack, but for usernames it's more convenient to use the cluster bomb attack, which will be doing this. So we have also intercepted the request. We have two positions right here. The first payload will be substituted in the username, and the second payload will be substituted in the password position. Alright, so when you run the attack with cluster bomb attack type, it will do this now. It will take all the values in the first payload from, we have A, B, C, D, and then it will test it against the first value in the payload. So we have A with 1, B with 1, and C with 1, and D with 1. And we'll do the same thing if we have A, B, C, D. And now it will test those against the second value in the second payload. And it will keep doing the exact same with the other values. And as you can see, it will test now. It have the possible value for, it has all the possibilities that can be when you are running this payload. So it will be in total 16. It will try 16 different combinations, and this is the maximum number of combinations between the two. Alright, so now that we have understood how cluster bomb and the pitchfork are working, we can now go ahead and use them to construct our attack. Okay, so now let's start with the pitchfork type of attack. As you can recall from the slides, we see that it only takes the first with the first value in the first payload with the first value in the second payload, and so on. Alright, so the username, because it's the first one we have here in the possessions, it will be corresponding to the first payload set, and the second payload set will be corresponding to the passwords, to the values that will be substituted in the password field. Right, so the first I'm gonna clear, and now for the values for the usernames, I'm gonna try, for example, admin, and hit enter, and for example John, and Tom, James. Alright, so forth. And for the second one, I'm gonna try password, and for example admin 1 2 3 4, and test. As you can see here, it gives you the number of payloads in this set and the total number of requests that will be sent. Okay, so now let's start the attack and see how it goes. Alright, we got some interesting results. As always, it's extracting the error message in this column right here, and then we have the admin with the password, which is the corresponding value to the admin in the second payload. And then we have John with admin, username and password not valid, and for the admin we have password not valid, since we already know that there is a user with the name admin in our site. Alright, we have also a James user. Okay, so now we know that we know for a fact there is the admin user, there is the David user, and also there is a James user. Alright, so taking notes when you are doing those attacks can be very helpful to understand how the application is actually working. Alright, now let's take a look at the cluster bomb attack. So just choose cluster bomb and then start the attack. Hit OK, and as you can see now it's gonna go and try every possible combination between the two sets. So it will be in total 16 payloads. Okay, so let me just expand this and expand this column so we can see the error message clearly. Alright, so it tries admin with password, we got password not valid, John with password, Tom with password, James with password, and then it tries the exact same values with this second value in the second payload, which is substituted for the password field. Okay, and as you can see, this is essentially how you would use. So choosing the type of the attack can be very important, because you don't want to send so many requests to this server. You might then be causing a DOS attack without you knowing it, if we are talking about a small server that can handle so many requests. Alright, so always only test the interests results in you and go step by step until you narrow down the number of possible values that you really need to substitute for each position in the request. Okay, so alright, so now let's do something. Let's run the same attack again, but this time with the pitchfork. Just stop. Okay, with the pitchfork start the attack, and I want to show you if you ever want to, for example, you have a long list and then you get the result, you can actually pause if you go to the attack and you have the pause, or you can repeat the same attack again, which is just gonna open up a new tab. Alright, good. So in the results we know that there is a user with the admin, so let's test against this admin. Now from this one we have learned that there is a user with a user named admin in this site. Alright, so now I'm gonna remove those those ones. I'm not gonna be marked as to be changed, and now I'm gonna type in here admin. Now I'm gonna leave the password to be changed, and now I'm gonna change sniper, which is the default, and now I'm gonna clear this one, and I'm gonna be specifying the values to be substituted in the password position. Alright, so for example, let's test the password and admin, administrator, not the admin again, let me remove this one, administrator, and what else? I actually forgot the username that I specified for this admin. Probably it's this is the super user. Okay, now let's start the attack. In total we have 4 requests that we need to send to the... Alright, that's... I actually forgot. Alright, so let me just check real quick what the actual... Alright, Alright, as you can see we have David user, admin user, and James user, and for the admin we have this is super user, right? This is super user, so let me just add this one also. This is super user, and let's start the attack. Okay, alright, now we have a 302. So from this we know now that there is a user called admin and the password is this. Now you can go ahead and log in. Let me just turn the intercept off so we don't... Alright, it's already off. And now just admin and we know that the password is this is super user. I hope that I typed it okay. Alright, that's it. Now we have logged in. If you were in a real website, then you actually own the system, and because the admin user can do anything in the server. Okay, so that was my breakdown to the repeater and the intruder tab. I hope you'll have learned something from this video, and I hope I give you something new. You have learned something new, and if you found this video valuable and you have learned something from it, don't forget to subscribe for more videos upcoming in the future, just like this one, and share with anyone that you might find to be interested to. And thank you for watching, and have a good day.